There is one life. That life is God. That life is our life right now. There is one life. That life is God. And that life is our life right now. Say that with me, please. There is one life. That life is God. That life is our life. Again, there is one life. That life is God. And that life is our life right now. Why do I do that? Is so you activate your chakras when you claim that energy within you. If you're feeling a little weary or you're in May gray, when you stand in front of the mirror and you claim your space, there's one life. That life is God. That life is our life right now. It activates your energy. It reminds you that the moment that you're living in is the moment that you can actually do something about. It releases any energy that you're actually in control. Yes? Brings you to a greater understanding of who you are. These are the simple truths, that allow us to renew, restore, and energize our very nature of our being. We decide to change, and therefore we do. Make sense? There was a man watching a fisherman fishing on the side of the bank, and every time the man would catch a fish, he would put it up to a ruler, and he'd measure to the fish, and if the fish was bigger than the ruler, he'd throw it back in the water. And then time and time again, when the man would catch the fish, he'd put it up against the ruler. If it was smaller than the ruler, he would keep it, and if it was too big, he would throw it back into the water. So a man comes up and he says, I'm just curious, I just really want to know, what's that about? I mean, is something wrong with fish that are larger? Do they taste bad? Do they have too many bones? What is it? The man says, well, it's kind of simple. Says, that's the size of my pan. So when I get a fish that's too big for my frying pan, well, I have to throw it back in. So whether you're long-term to Unity, or you've been to Unity all your life, or you just started last week, we're always working with our pan. We are always working with our consciousness. And our consciousness, as we evolve as human beings, is always shifting and changing and expanding. And that's what we are designed to do as humans. I mean, look at just how things have changed in our culture 20, 30, 40 years. I was watching a lot of TEDx talks about how AI is going to shift or can shift, how we do life. And so the people that are determined, your song is perfect, get ready. There's a train coming, all right. There's a life force coming. There's an energy coming. And the individuals that are more comfortable with change and adaptability are the ones that will soar in this time in our culture. And the ones that need to be in charge and in control and want to keep things the same, that's where the weary more often than not comes in. Make sense? But we have the freedom at any given time to expand our consciousness, to learn new things, to adapt to new ideas. And I find it exhilarating. Yes. I find it exhilarating the majority of the time. The majority of the time. And so in that space, if life is bringing me something deep to look at, how I handle it is I get deep with life. If life is handing me something deep to look at, I get deep into life. Yes? And by that, I mean I go back to the principles that have kept me surviving myself this long. I go back to the Unity teachings that have supported me in sobriety, in self-acceptance, in allowing, in coexisting, in sitting in rooms with people that I don't agree with half the time, nor do they me. But we're not here to agree with each other. If there's that saying, you've heard it, right? If all of you agree, some of you are unnecessary. I mean, that is the beauty of who we are in our humanity. But in unity, we believe that there is a power that is called God, that is called Yahweh, that is called divine, that is called creator. It doesn't really matter what you call it. It matters what you believe about it. And every now and then we go back to that principle and we remind ourselves that same divine substance in physics and that we know to be true, the moving energy of life, we are made of identically the same thing. Identically. That same soaring ability, energy that has no Velcro stuck on it whatsoever. So why in our humanness do we do that? Is it that we don't feel we deserve to fly and be free? Is it we get engaged with sharing our stories and some level of suffering? Those are just questions that one asks because we know that we are made of the same thing that our Creator has made us with, yes? And that same energy. And if there's only one power in the universe, then how does that power of our problem keep taking our headspace and our heart? Yes? Is this relate to you? Are you with me?
Yes.
All right. So we ask ourselves this. And that's why it's so beautiful that we are practicing. And we call it a practice because every day we work with these principles. We come, we gather in sacred harmony and energy, and we have new insights as to how to make our lives better and more manageable for everybody else around us. That's for sure. You know, Jesus taught us that it is not I, he said, but it's the Father. It's the Spirit within me who doeth the works. And when I was coming into my 20s and involved in these principles, that's one of the most exciting things that I ever heard because I realized it's not up to me to have to do it all. I don't have to do it all. There's something within me that will allow this energy to come forth, whether it's abundance, whether it's health, whether it's joy. It's not just up to my personality. Thank goodness. Say that with me. Thank goodness. It's about something greater than we are, than we can draw from, that creates this energy of health and well-being. And I still find now, a long time, years later, I still find these principles as exciting today as I did when I was 19. How about you? You might want to work on that a little bit. Is that your level of, I'm excited? What does exhilarated look like? No. Yay! It's a big deal. It's really a big deal that we have the pleasure and the privilege to work with these ideas. And when life gives us something deep, we get deeper into life. When I was a teenager, I always loved the crescent moon and star. And I adored it. I had it on posters. I put it on paintings. I bought things with it on it. I had a ring. I had a necklace. You get the point. I loved it. And I had it everywhere. And so I was going with a group of girls. They were going to get tattoos. Well, when I was 19, tattoos, well, you just didn't get them, right? There were only a couple of people that got tattoos, and that wouldn't have been for me to do. And so I say I'm not going to get a tattoo because I had already created and stirred enough issues with my family. I didn't need to add one more. But I said, I'll go with you. And I'll support you. Well, the tattoo parlor was right beside the bar. So there you go. So I came up with this lofty idea that, well, maybe I could get a crescent moon and star on my arm. And so I did. And I was so proud of it. You know, I wore tank tops and it just looked so good, you know. Until Aunt Jane saw it. And she said, "What have you done? What have you done?" I said, "Oh, I got a little tattoo, a little crescent moon and star." She said, you're going to have that burnt off your arm immediately. It's Satan, it's satanic, it's the Islamic flag, and you're going to, I didn't even know what she was talking about, you know. And she said, you're going to have that taken off your arm. Well, I will tell you, I still have it. No matter what, I don't know about you, I'm still going to use my own mind. How about you? So, fast track, 40-something years old, I speak at an event, and as a gift, a man wants to give me something because I wouldn't accept any money for it, and he gave me this gift, and it was an image of the sky the day I was born. And it said, Temple Hayes, the morning you were born in Anderson, South Carolina, there was a crescent moon and star in the sky. In the sky. So why do I say that? Why is that significant to you? Because that's your journey too. It's my journey, it's your journey, because we were all sent here for a reason, and our lives have tremendous meaning. And it's time to remember sometimes the depth of that. I created a quote that says, "To wish upon a star is progress. To know you are a star is evolution." To wish upon a star is progress. To know you are a star is evolution. And the magic of your life and who you are and the miracles that have occurred so much, just so you're still here with an assignment on this planet. People go, how do I know I have an assignment on this planet? Well, because you're here. You're here. But the more that we open up to it, the more that we own it with willingness to be part of it and to experience this, the more that we will have it. In Scripture it says, be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among nations. I will be exalted on the earth. Exalted meaning I will leave good favor. I will have good favor. But I love that saying when I get it deep into life. It's time for me to be still and know that I am God. And a lot of people will say, be still and know I am God, but they forget the word that. How many of you have a that in your life right now? If you're in the witness protection program, don't raise your hand, but otherwise, right? What I mean is everyone has a something, that a project, a dream, a grandchild that's giving you a little energy of growth, a child, something. Be still and know that I am God. And I love to frame it just like that, because that is what helps me see how God is working in a greater way in my life. I don't want to get rid of the that. I want to embrace it and say, here you are. Oh boy, here you are. I didn't anticipate you. I don't know why you're here. I didn't count on you showing up, whatever you are. But I'm going to work and walk through you by using these principles that I know are true. I'm going to use these principles, and I'm going to work with it, and I'm going to look at what is it teaching me. And that's part of being a human being, is that we seek these experiences, we learn to frame them different, we get out our frying pan, we learn what no longer fits, and we allow ourselves to emerge forward. That's this journey we call life. On the podcast this week, I interviewed Dennis Merritt Jones. He's authored 7 books, Art of Abundance, The Art of Uncertainty. He and I have been really good friends for like 35 years. And so he's got this new book out, When Fear Speaks, Listen. When Fear Speaks, Listen. It just launched this last week. And he talked about how we have this tendency, you know, with all the acronyms that we have of false evidence appearing real. Remember that one? Feel everything and run, another acronym for fear. Just be afraid, but do it anyway. And what happens, it builds more and more over time. But he said, you know, one of the keys of that is that learning that when you have fear, it's innate. You have it for a reason. It was created for us as an emotion to tell us to pay attention, to be attentive, to notice. And it's not just staying at the surface level of I have fear, especially if you ever turn on a TV or ever turn on your computer or ever turn on your phone and all these notifications running as fast and hard as you can, and all the fear that is pushed at us because it keeps people disempowered. We do know that, right? It weakens us because there's so much good going on in the world. Dr. Jim and I were talking about this morning. We have more little girls in school than in the history of our world. In 2023, we had less crime than we've had in I don't even know how long. Years and years and years. But where do we hear that? When do we hear that? We hear things that could stop us in our tracks. And so when we have this fear, we want to look at it and say, what are you telling me? What are you teaching me, my sacred friend? What do you want me to pay attention to right here and right now? What is this about, this evolution? I spoke a couple of weeks ago in LA, and I saw a lot of the prisoners from Amity, the Amity Foundation. 30,000 prisoners study meditation and affirmation. 0% of them commit suicide, and 90% of all parolees never return to prison. Whoa, that's a big deal. That's a clap, right? I mean, they are some of the most, when I say they, see, I've already created separation. But it's amazing to be with people that learn, like us, with the freedom of being seated in these chairs, is that we, as Shirley MacLaine would say, we may have made mistakes. We are not a mistake. We may have made mistakes. We are not a mistake. And to me, that is the root and the richness of our teaching. There's no mistake that anyone needs to hold on to for more than a couple of weeks in your life. Can we do it? Yes. Can you buy it? Can you be in that energy? You know, we've had a little bit of spring, a little bit of warm weather, a little bit of spring. I won't always do this, okay? I'm still kind of in shock at times because it was 95. It was either 90 degrees or we had a hurricane coming. It was one of those two things. But I do love it here. And I don't ever want to sound like I'm knocking where I love. Because when you knock something and you criticize something that you love, you don't get to have more of it. You know that. So I love it here very much, and I feel honored to be here. I'm glad Spirit told us to come. But that being said, it's been, you know, like when the sun's out, we just go running outside. It's like, sun's out, wow. And the birds are singing, and it just feels so much like spring. And a lot of us identify with that spring feeling of the birds singing. And I read in some studies this week that it's more than that hundreds of thousands of years in our evolution of our own nervous system, that we identify with birds in the most unique way. In that, birds, when there's a predator or there's a reason for them to be afraid, they don't sing. Kind of sounds like us, doesn't it? We stop dancing and singing when we're afraid. When we hear birds sing, it's an ancient reality for us that it activates a feeling of peace and well-being because we know that we are safe. So anytime you're getting into that rabbit hole of making up or thinking or overly concerned, listen to the sounds of birds on your computer or go outside and listen to them in that way that they energize you and that space. I'm going to close with a story of two monks that are walking down the river, and they're getting ready to cross, and there's a woman there that she's hurt her ankle and she needs help. So one of the monks lifts up the woman and takes her across the waterway to the other side on the bank and leaves her there. So he and his brother, they're walking along, and one of them looks at the other and says, I can't believe you did that. You know that we're not supposed to touch a woman, and we're not supposed to help in that way. You know that was wrong. He said, let me tell you what I do know. I dropped that woman back at the bank. You're the one that's still carrying her. What do we carry? What do we carry? And why do we carry it when there's only one life, and that life is God, and that life is our life right now? There is one life. That life is God. That life is our life right now. Thank you for coming today. Thank you.